So let's talk about some of the themes that are related to the King of Pentacles. So I'm showing you an image from the Modern Witch Tarot by Lisa Sterle. And I'm just going to also show you the image that is shared in Jessica Dore's book called Tarot for Change. And this is, they're just two different interpretations of this particular image, the King of Pentacles or the King of Coins. You sometimes see that one called. And for me, reading tarot is not so much about a fixed meaning for the card, but it's much more interesting for me when you think about what comes up for you when you look at this card. What is the mood for you that you see? How do you relate to this card? So one of the things that I will share that I find really interesting about this one is that sometimes there's a card that comes up in your spread that you look at and you're like, I have nothing to say about this. I don't really relate to this card. Like I don't know what this means. And so I find often when that's happening, it's because there's something about the card that is hitting a part of you that you don't know how to relate to, right? Or a concept that you feel a little bit of discomfort about, and the immediate feeling that comes up is like, I don't want to engage with that. So really for me, the meaning of this card is embodied authority, okay, or embodied power. So we'll just talk a little bit about some of the images in this card, and I encourage you to sort of pause and just really look at the card for yourself, see what comes up for you, this image or the one that you've pulled in your spread if you're asking about your particular spread here. And there are just some things to notice. So there's this city in the background. It's a castle in the other image. And you have this figure who's kind of in a garden in this sort of beautiful place, which is very grounded. And the energy of Pentacles is Earth. Okay, so that has to do with safety, security, sometimes career and money, but also the body. Okay, what's material, what's really happening in the world. And there's something for me here in the sort of downcast eyes of this figure, which is also the case in the other image, which I'll just show again here. Yeah, just making sure you can see that. So it's just, there's a little bit of like sadness or something that comes up. So some of the feelings or ideas that come up for me around the King of Pentacles is, what is your relationship with your embodied power? Okay, where do you access your sense of personal power? Where do you access the part of you that knows what you have control over and what you don't have control over? The part of you that knows, what is your domain? What are you sovereign over? And for me, definitely one of those sources of power is my body, right? It's how I experience my emotions. It's how I empathize with other people by feeling things really physically in my body, which isn't always easy, right? And it's definitely not a traditional form of power according to sort of a capitalist patriarchal society, which is going to be more interested in things like physical strength and money, right? Sort of financial power. So that's part of the reason I think that sometimes discomfort might come up around looking at this card and thinking like we disown our own power a lot of the time. We don't acknowledge the places where we actually do feel power. It's sometimes uncomfortable to look at ourselves in a position of leadership or authority. And if we are in a position of leadership and authority, we might also be thinking a little bit about like, what have I had to sacrifice in order to get here? What have I had to let go of in order to really be in that place of power for myself? And, one of those sacrifices might be that question of thinking about, letting go of the things that I don't have power or control over and just really accepting where it is that I do shine or where it is that I do actually have some control. So a part of this is really about knowing yourself. And I think that's why this card might bring up a little bit of discomfort for some of us, is looking at it and thinking, I don't feel like that King of Pentacles. I don't feel like I'm sitting on a throne, sovereign over my domain with my feet on the ground, right? A lot of us don't feel that way a lot of the time, but that doesn't mean that we're not there. It doesn't mean that we don't have those qualities of power and leadership. It might be that we're not acknowledging them, we're neglecting them in ourselves, right? So, a useful question here might be around what gets you grounded, what allows you to feel most connected to yourself. Who are the people around you that really see you for, your best self, see you for the self that you could be, for your potential and your power? Who reminds you of your values, of what's important to you? And so again, these things are not necessarily the forms of power that we associate with patriarchal capitalist society, but we're really thinking about, what is my version of power? Where do I feel like I'm in that place of control? So we want to look at our values, and we want to look at our experiences in our body, which of course can be complicated, especially if you have things going on in your body that make it not always feel like a place that you have control over, right? And so, another piece that might come up here is, what is the difference between power and control? What is the difference between knowing that I have internal resources, that I have strength, that I have resilience, but also knowing that that doesn't mean that I can be in control over everything? It doesn't mean that I get to predict the future or read people's minds, but I get to be here in my garden, right? On my throne, just sitting in that place of knowing and allowing things to grow and blossom around me because I know who I am. So those are just some things to think about around the images and the themes and the mood, at least for me, of the King of Pentacles. And I hope that was helpful for you and something to think about for your own spread and whatever it is that you are going through in your own life, finding your embodied sense of power.